We have made it another episode of the morning after a wild playoff weekend in the books. The morning after the wild card round. I guess technically still one game left to go, but 5 of the 6 games in the books. I'm your host, Jared Smith. Appreciate you hopping on with me today. This will be a little bit brisker than prior episodes. We don't have as many games to recap, don't have as many games to spin forward to. But still a lot to get to on the show. Some really important angles I want to talk about and verbalize and continue to spin this thing forward as we now get to the divisional round of the playoffs. So we will react to the wild card round. I'll go through the 5 of the games that we've seen so far. We'll have a brief preview for Steelers Texans at the end of the show. I will give you a pick that I've already made that's still available in the market that I really like for the Monday night game. That'll be our final segment, our Morning Glory segment. In between that, we will also talk a lot of college football. I will recap what we saw in the CFP semifinals this week. Pretty one-sided game in the Peach Bowl. Fiesta Bowl was really fun, really back and forth. It sets up Indiana and Miami in the championship game. We still have a whole nother week left to go, right? It's not until Monday, I think the 20th. No, it'll be Monday the 19th. So on next Sunday night's episode, that's when I'll do a bit more of a deep dive into that, and it'll get you set for the Monday night game in the championship. So that is the agenda for today, and I appreciate you joining us. Don't forget, lots of exciting announcements, lots of things on the horizon. So first of all, I restarted the Patreon. For those that have been following me for years, you probably remember me having a Patreon when I first started out working in this business, and I wanted to create some kind of channel platform for me to not only be able to post free content, but also paid content as well. I started with a Patreon, and I had it up to it. Especially there was one March Madness where I got really hot. I had a pretty strong following on it. Went away from it because of Dub Club and Discord and things that were, necessary distractions, but distractions. Well, I've been doing a lot of research, and I'm trying to get back on some kind of platform where I can do live streams in-game, halftime, pre-game, post-game, and offer some kind of exclusive paid platform where the supporters can, A, help monetarily, but also B, have a greater connection to me. So that's why I went back to the Patreon. I still am running the Discord. It's free. The Discord will always remain free. I thought maybe I was going to add a paid channel to the overall Discord where you could join for free, but there was one premium channel. But Discord doesn't want me to do that because I have a betting Discord and they have a problem with betting or selling betting content. So I went back to Patreon. It won't just be picks on the Patreon. Again, it'll be private live streams, pregame, halftime, night before type of stuff for bets, things that I'm seeing. And it'll also just be a lot of stream of consciousness stuff. I wanted a platform where I could start to talk a little bit more about spirituality, consciousness, my fitness routines, nature. Like I want to treat it almost like a journal, kind of, not really like a private journal, but a public journal of some of the things I'm going through, my journey. And I just thought it was the best platform that could enhance that for me. So I'm back on the Discord. You can join for free. I'm going to be posting a lot of free content on the Discord, but there will also be a paid channel, a paid tier that's $20 a month. That is just, it's everything. I'm not going to do like some kind of special product or anything, or this like all these different tiers. Like you're either on the free plan where you get all the free posts, or there's one tier that's $20 a month that you'll get all the premium benefits. And I'm going to be posting a lot of the. So the reason that, again, another reason that I wanted to do this, I wanted to get away from X a little bit. For the last few years, I've been posting a lot on X, really trying to build that following. Barely moved the needle. So I think, but from what I'm hearing from people who work in social media, X is a dying platform in terms of growth. I've kind of maxed out where I'm going to be on X. Like, unless I say stupid shit and go viral, which even when I do that, I gain 10 followers. Like, I haven't been able to tap into a bigger audience on X. So now what I'm trying to do is take the people that I have, turned into fans and supporters on X and try to get them to other platforms where I can have a more direct impact on them and have more access to them going back and forth. The algos on X it's really tough for people to see your work. I have thousands of people that view my stuff, and it seems like I just get no engagement. So I'm trying to pivot away from platforms that haven't worked and try some new shit. And I really enjoyed Patreon. I like it's clean. I like that I can tier it where you can have a free subscription and you could get all the free basic shit, but then you can upgrade. And it's just a very simple tier where you're getting all my bets and you're getting the private live streams. And like, for example, when I post graphs and charts and things like that, I will originate all my content there. Then maybe later I'll post it on X, but the origination of it will always start on Patreon, and whatever that's worth to you. Or you're just supporting me, it's $20 a month, basically. You're buying me one coffee a week to continue to do this job and to continue to pour my heart and soul into this, because sometimes when you post your stuff every day, you're out there every day, it can get exhausting. You don't realize who's listening, and you don't know who's. I'm always grateful for people who do reach out, but I would say the amount of people who reach out compared to the people who actually consume the content is very low. It's very low. So that's why I want to create more avenues for people to get that direct connection with me, because that's really what this is all about. It's about connection. I'm not out here to try to clickbait you. I know some of the stuff I tweet can be a little bit absurd sometimes, but I'm just trying to get some engagement. But the real work that I do is not for attention. It's because I love doing what I do. I feel truly blessed that I get to wake up every day, basically be a sports nerd, then get on camera, talk about it, dissect it, absorb it, get feedback about it, and then to continue that process every day, to continue to learn and grow. I am incredibly lucky to do this job. So I need to figure out ways to sustain it even outside of football season, which is my main money-making season. And, of course, as you know, football season is about to end. So I thought this was an opportunity. And if you have any feedback about the Patreon, you know how to reach me. All right, let's move into the games this week. Again, it won't be as long of a recap section. Just don't have as many games to get to. We'll start with the Saturday games. Rams, Panthers. Back and forth. Rams had a 14-0 lead. Carolina showed some fight. Rams, slight win in the box score. Penalties they need to clean up. They were good in the red zone. Actually, both teams really good in the red zone. Combined 8 for 9 in the red zone. Rams won the turnover battle 2-1. That was a weird thing this week. So before I finish this game, teams that won the turnover battle actually went 2-3 this week. So if you won the turnover battle this week, odds are you lost the game, which is very unique. It was obviously just a crazy back and forth type of week. We've had 12 lead changes in the fourth quarter of the 5 games so far. The Dogs went 4-1 against the spread. You had some outright winners, right? You had the Bears as an outright winner. You had the Niners as an outright winner. And then you had the Rams or the Panthers cover as a big dog. Rams unable to cover as a favorite. And then you had the Bills as a dog outright winner. The only favorite to cover was New England on Sunday night. Unders went 3-2 on the week. The only 2 overs were the 2 Saturday games. Rams, Panthers, and Bears, Packers both went well over the total by multiple scores. And Bills, Jags, Niners, Eagles, Chargers, Patriots went way under the total. And the late game was a snooze fest. But all 3 Sunday games went under the total. That Rams game, listen, I think a little fluky. The Rams kind of played with their food a little bit. I think they're the second best team in the NFC. And they'll get a chance to prove it. because they opened a road favorite at Chicago, and I think they're going to win that game, and then they'll get the NFC. It's basically the NFC playoffs as they should be, the NFC West Invitational, right? You got Seahawks, Niners in one half of the bracket. You got the Rams, a road favorite, in the other half of the bracket. I would be shocked if one of those three NFC West teams is not representing the Super Bowl. That's how it should be. I'll get to some divisional predictions coming up at the end of this segment. But Bears Packers was nuts. It's the same shit, different day for Chicago. You thought they were down and out, 21-3 at halftime. I thought the game was over. Green Bay won the box score. Chicago lost the turnover battle, 2-0. Won the game. Penalties were a big deal. Green Bay had 7 for 65. Chicago only had 5 penalty yards the whole game. But they lost the rest of the box score, right? They lost yards per play. They lost success rate. They weren't great in the red zone. They were good on third downs. Caleb Williams made one insane throw on 4th and 8, and the Packers kind of putzed around in the fourth quarter with a lead. A lot of Packers fans are upset about LaFleur and all that stuff. I get it, but you got to give some credit to Chicago for making plays in the second half of that game. Their defense was much better in the second half than in the first half. And Caleb Williams made more plays than Jordan Love did in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was disrespectful. We said it on last week's show. It was disrespectful that Chicago was a home underdog in this game. I know Green Bay had a big lead. I don't care. The Packers all year had been one of those teams that they showed you their floor. Right? Lost to Carolina, lost to Cleveland, tied Dallas, 9-3-1, end the year on a 4-game losing streak. They didn't deserve to be a road favorite in this spot. Not against the divisional champs in a divisional game, and Chicago sitting there as the home underdog. It was crazy. So maybe the wrong side won in terms of the ratings, but it kind of aligned with what Chicago's been all year, which is this team that maybe doesn't win sexy or win the analytics or win the box score, but they find ways to win games, man. Eventually their luck will run out. They're not going to win the Super Bowl with this formula, but they got Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams a playoff win. I think it's a big moment for Caleb's development and Ben's culture building in Chicago. He said after the game, which I thought was very telling and very kind of insightful, he has 2 players on his team that were in the Patriots-Falcons 28-3 Super Bowl game, one on each side. I think Grady Jarrett played for Atlanta. I forget who played for New England. But he has 2 players on that Chicago team. Joe Thuney played for New England that were on that that were in that game. And the lessons, like he had both of them go up and talk to the team about just how crazy these games are and how you just got to keep playing. And Ben Johnson in 1 year has turned the culture around in Chicago. Again, they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year, but they're going to be a very dangerous team going forward, especially if they're all O-line's good and Caleb Williams on the rookie deal still. So very bullish on Chicago's future, but they're probably going to lose to the Rams this week. Let's get to the Sunday games. Jags win the box score, lose the turnover margin, and lose to the Bills. Obviously, 2 turnovers in that game. Not a great performance by Trevor Lawrence. Had a few brain farts. Buffalo kind of hung on by the skin of their teeth. They were good in the red zone, good on third downs. Josh Allen made the plays in the fourth quarter. The Bills' defense made the plays in the fourth quarter. The Jags didn't. These playoff games, listen, we've talked about it before. It's Plinko, man. It is total Plinko. If you make the play in the fourth quarter and the ball bounces on your side, you're going to win the game. Not a lot of separating these teams. With the exception of the Sunday night game, Patriots-Chargers, the first 4 games this weekend, one bounce of the ball in either way, and the result flips. And that's how close these games are. So if you're laying big points in these games, good luck. I made the mistake laying it with the Rams on Saturday. I'm not going to make that mistake again, even though I took the Chargers this week. That was the one underdog that didn't cover, of course, was the one that I was on. But I think it's tough to lay points in this. This postseason is absolute Plinko. I do not know who is going to win the Super Bowl. I really have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I think I have a path of who the teams are that are the best teams. But once the games start, who freaking knows? Speaking of Plinko, Niners, to be fair, decisive box score win at the Eagles. They won by 4 as a 6-point dog. This was the biggest steam move of the week, right? Everyone was betting the Eagles like they already knew the final score. This thing opened 3.5, got bet all the way out to, I even saw some 6.5 before finally some Niners money came in. But the Niners were almost +2 in net yards per play, +10% net success, but a -2 in the turnover margin. Brock Purdy threw 2 really bad interceptions that probably should have cost his team the game, but that's how bad Jalen Hurts and Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni were. He's melting down on the sidelines with A.J. Brown. Patullo can't, pull a good scripted drive out of his ass, and Jalen Hurts is just scrambling from the pocket despite there's no pressure. Like, just a total collapse of execution and creativity and polish from this Eagles team. Like, they just kind of thought they were going to gut their way through the playoffs, and it's not going to happen. I tweeted after the game, I joked, I said, how long after this game does Kevin Patullo get fired if the Eagles lose? We'll see. We'll see if we wake up when you're listening to this on Monday morning. We'll see if Kevin Patullo still has a job. If you recall, if you've been following me, you recall from the summer I was saying this is a massive red flag that they brought in this outside voice quarterback coach Scott Loeffler from Bowling Green when they had Kevin Patullo as the OC. It just shows that they have no faith in Patullo, and I heard there was a lot of friction behind the scenes, with Loeffler trying to get his stuff in there, and they never really demoted Patullo, but I would be shocked if he has a job after this disaster. 4.3 yards per play, 42% success rate against this Niners defense, which has been Swiss cheese the second half of the year. I mean, Robert Saleh holding this thing together with Elmer's glue and bubblegum, and the Niners went into Philly with a mass unit. 2 best players, both out, Bosa and Warner. It's been backups, third stringers, fourth stringers for San Francisco this year, and they shut down the Eagles at home. Philly at home. They shut down the Niners on the road, go on the road in Philly, and really shove it up the Eagles' ass. So, tough performance by Philly. That'll be a tough exit interview process, I think, for that Eagles media staff. And then the Sunday night game, belt to ass. Chargers just had. Justin Herbert was a human pincushion. He took 6 sacks. How about this? The 2 combined teams went 0 for 5 in the red zone. Just a really sloppy, ugly game. New England lost the turnover battle again. 3 out of the 3 teams that lost the turnover battle this week won the game. Like, it's just crazy how teams keep losing the turnover battle and winning in the NFL, considering that how close these postseasons have been. But the Chargers only gained 3.5 yards per play. They had nothing. They had no run game. They had no offensive line help. Even though the Patriots were not a very high pressure rate team this year, just 31st in pressure rate without blitzing. Didn't matter. That's how bad the Chargers' offensive line is, and that's how Justin Herbert's season, unfortunately, will come to an end. 0 for 3 now for his career in the playoffs. All right, so that sets up the divisional round, right? We've got 3 out of the 4 matchups set. It's going to be let me actually type these in. I didn't do this yet. I should have done this before I came on here. Buff, Denver. I got to get these into my system and see if I can find any value. So we don't know. It's either going to be Pittsburgh or Houston at New England, San Francisco at Seattle, Buffalo at Denver, Rams at Chicago. So I did not adjust my ratings this week. I don't adjust my ratings in the playoffs because I feel like I don't want to let the postseason adjust how I felt about these teams during the regular season. Now, obviously, if there's personnel situations, I will adjust my ratings. But for the most part, I keep things pretty stagnant because I want to see what I would have thought about this team heading into the playoffs. Maybe I'll adjust a 0.5 point. But for right now, for this initial look that I'm giving you now as I cook these numbers up with my ratings, I'm not going to adjust anything. Buffalo at Denver. Buffalo opened a 1-point favorite. I make them a 0.5 point favorite. I have Buffalo 2 points better than the Broncos. You give Denver maybe 2 for being at home. I kind of make this game a pick 'em right in line with where the market is. Probably not going to do much in this game. However, I do think Buffalo goes into Denver and wins. I think the path is becoming very clear in the AFC. We're going to get a Buffalo-New England rematch in the AFC Championship game. I feel like that's destiny at this point. But I feel good about this number. If we get some action on Denver and the Bills flip back to a favorite, I mean, the Bills get a plus sign next to their name, I'll bet Buffalo. Maybe I'll bet Buffalo anyways because I do think Buffalo is going to win the Super. I kind of think Buffalo right now I get Super Bowl vibes in the AFC. When about a month ago I gave this take, I thought the Bills were, the path was clear for the Bills. No Lamar, no Mahomes. There's no dominant team in the AFC. I think they have an edge over Drake May and the Bills. If the Bills play the Patriots tonight, right? If the Bills are instead of the Bills Jags game, if the Bills are in New England, they beat the Patriots tonight. Not with those Drake May fumbles and with Josh Allen and that offensive line for Buffalo, which is much better than the Chargers' offensive line. I really think if Buffalo and New England play each other again, first of all, it'll be interesting to see who's favored in that game. But I would take Buffalo for sure. Rams, Bears, line open 3.5. It's looking like 4. I make it 4.5. Again, I don't have a ton of movement here, so I feel good about where my numbers are. I feel good about the Rams being the number 1 team in my ratings with Seattle. That's where I have them right now. Actually, excuse me, I have Seattle 1 point better. I have Seattle 1 point better than the Rams in my power ratings, and I make the Rams a 4.5 point favorite at Chicago. If we get some Chicago action as a home dog, this thing gets down to 3, well, then I'm interested in the Rams. I think that's the way I would play it this week. We don't know who New England will play. But I have New England right now as my number 1 power-rated team in the AFC, tied with Houston. Buffalo 1 point back. I think I would upgrade Buffalo for their win today. Actually, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to update my ratings live on the air. This is fun, right? So, obviously, we're not changing Seattle's rating because they didn't play. I'm not going to bump up the Rams because they didn't cover. So Rams are going to stay at 9. Seattle's going to stay at 10. Houston, we'll get to them tomorrow. Philly, obviously we downgrade them a point because they lose. New England, we upgrade them a point. San Francisco, upgrade a point. Obviously Buffalo, upgrade a point. Obviously Jags, we're going to downgrade a point. Chargers, downgrade a point. Denver stays the same. Detroit stays the same. I will upgrade Chicago a point just because they won as an underdog. You have to, I guess, even though the game was very back and forth, could have gone either way. Green Bay downgrade a point. Pittsburgh, we get to them tomorrow. Carolina, we will keep them the same. So everything else obviously stays the same as the teams are into the offseason. So there you go. I upgraded my ratings. How has that changed everything? Not really much. Buffalo goes to a 1.5 point favorite at Denver. They're favored by 1 right now. I'm still not going to do anything with that. We'll see what the market does. We'll see if Buffalo maybe flips to a dog. We'll see if the Broncos take some money. Rams go up to a 3.5 point favorite. If we upgrade the Bears and we keep the Rams the same, but still market's sitting 4. Don't really feel much interest to bet that unless we see a 3. If we see a 3, I'm interested in the Rams. So same strategy there. And then we'll get to the game that'll be played on Sunday. We don't know the times of the games yet, but we know Saturday is going to be Buffalo, Denver, Rams, Bears. We know Sunday is going to be Patriots, whoever, Houston or Pittsburgh, and then Seattle, San Francisco. My guess is they put I'm guessing they put Rams, Bears. I don't know. Who frickin' knows? I'm not even going to try to guess. Seattle, San Francisco. This is where, you can make the case maybe for the Niners here. You're out to 7. You're out to 7. This thing opened 6.5. Seattle, 6.5 point favorite. We're out to 7 now. So there's definitely some money coming in on Seattle early. And I make this 4.5. Now, you want to make the case that I need to downgrade San Francisco a little bit for Kittle being hurt? You can make that case. But I think Tonjes is a pretty solid backup. And I'm not really going to move off the tight end position. Now, if Tonjes gets hurt and they're down to tight end 3, well, then I would consider it. I thought they got a boost from Demarcus Robinson, who was fantastic. Obviously, they still have McCaffrey, who looks healthy. Jennings played well. Trent Williams is back. Jennings threw a touchdown pass like Shanahan was in his bag. And I don't know if I fully trust Sam Darnold. I know we just saw this game, and it was very one-sided. But now I'm getting 7 points, right? This is a 1-point line at San Francisco end of the year. I was getting maybe 2 with San Francisco in that game as a home dog. Now I'm getting a full touchdown. Different handicap. Very different handicap. +7. You really want to lay points in this postseason? I sure as hell don't. I think it's 7. If this thing goes to 7.5, you got to take San Francisco. You have to. 7, I still would consider the Niners. But I'm assuming Seattle will be a very heavily teased team this week, right? I'm probably going to see a lot of teasers to Seattle, Denver, maybe. And then we'll see what the New England-Pittsburgh, New England-Houston line is come Monday night. So that's where I'm at with the divisional round. Again, early value. Rams at 3. Keep an eye on the market this week. If there's any Chicago money, I don't think there's going to be, but you never know. These syndicates, they're weird these days. They'll fire for God knows what reason. And at weird times, too. So just keep an eye on the market. Rams at 3 would be a play. If the Bills flip to a dog, that would be a play. I would also just consider a Bills rollover money line parlay, right? So we bet the Bills this week on the money line. Take 2 or 3 units. Bills money line this week. Bills money line next week. Get them into the Super Bowl, and then you've got yourself a nice little cushion to play with. You don't have to that's why I like it's called a mechanical parlay when you strategize to bet the same team money line multiple rounds in a row of a postseason or a bracket. And the reason I like it is, A, the prices will change. So you might, depending on how the rest of the bracket plays out, you might actually do better than what the futures price is. Typically you do, especially if you get an upset by an underdog at any point in the future rounds. Like on the other side of the bracket, like say, for instance, Pittsburgh or Houston figure out a way to beat New England in that divisional round at the bottom. Well, then the Bills would be a bigger favorite in the wild card round. I mean, in the championship round, and that would make the money line rollover a more favorable price for you. And yeah, so Buffalo flips to a dog at all this week. That would be a very strong play for me. And I'm going to look to probably play San Francisco +7. But I'm not in a hurry with any of these bets. That's the beauty of the early round. Like, I know what numbers I'm looking for. And if I don't get these numbers, I'm going to pass. Why? I just told you in the earlier part of this segment. These games are freaking plinko. Like, honestly, they're absolute plinko. They could bounce anyway. So how do you make up for that variance? You set your boundaries. You get numbers that you think are favorable numbers, and you don't chase. Like, for instance, if San Francisco steams down to like 6 or 5, right? I make it 4.5. Maybe it steams down to 5.5. Who knows? There's some money that comes in on the Niners this week. I missed it. I didn't get 7.5. Oh, well, next game. Find a prop you like. Find a total you like. Find something else you like. There's no value in these sides in the postseason. Very little. So just making bets to make bets, not worth it. The prop angle, the prop market's where you find the value. For example, for those on the Patreon, I gave out Brandon Cooks over 19.5 receiving yards. Brandon Cooks was on the field for 50% of snaps in Week 17 against the Eagles. And then Joshua Palmer got hurt. And I didn't check the snap counts today, but I was watching for him the whole time, and he was out there a lot. That's something that the market, this is a guy who was just traded from New Orleans to Buffalo in like Week 13. There's no way that the market can accurately assess how big of a factor he is in the offense because he just hasn't played enough with that team. But the Bills don't have an alpha receiver, number one receiver. So when you get a guy like Cooks who has playoff experience and he's got snap counts, and the reason that he was signed is to be a playoff veteran who can help take some of the pressure off Josh Allen in these bigger moments, and he had a huge play. He had a couple of really big plays. One of them was overturned. The other one later in the game. The market was wrong on him. His number probably, and we're going to look to him again this week. We'll see what Brandon Cooks' line comes out at. Whatever it's at. If it's in the 20s again, I'm betting it. Especially if the receptions props at 1.5, because it's hard for the market to fully bake that in when he's had such a short sample size with one team. That's how you find value betting the playoffs. You don't find value just waiting until Sunday and then firing off on whatever opposite side of the market steam. Or, God forbid, chase the steam. That's even worse. Chasing the steam in the NFL postseason is one of the worst minus EV bets you probably can make. On a side, for sure. Because the number is so sharp at this stage that if it steams down, for example, the Eagles one is a great example of this. Eagles minus 3.5. And I know that bet would have lost too. But if you got in early at that and the thing closes 6, you made a great bet. It lost. But if you chased it at 6 because everyone's betting Philly and they're supposed to win, that's what the sharps are telling me. Well, then you made a terrible bet and lost. That's even worse. Another example today is the Jags. Right before the game, the Jags line steamed all the way out to 2.5 at Circa. You could have bet Jags -1 all week. And then on Sunday, the sharps tipped their hand and said, we like Jacksonville. And the line steamed out to 2.5. I even got a text from one of the services that I subscribe to that said, the sharps Circa's telling us Jacksonville's the right side. Oh, really? Imagine waiting all week where you could have bet Jacksonville -1. Waiting till Sunday morning, 20 minutes before the kick, and Circa steams out to 2.5. And you're like, shit, Jacksonville's the right side. Let's bet -2.5. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. It's a losing strategy. The winning strategy is you either bet the other side or you tip your cap and say, I missed it. We move on to the next game. Or we find a strategy like Brandon Cooks. So just something to think about when you're watching the market throughout the course of the week. Don't chase the steam. Let the steam happen. Absorb it. Try to figure out why it happened. And then try to poke holes in it to figure out if there's actually value on the other side. That is the proper way to approach when your odds screen lights up 20 minutes before kick. Trying to get in at the last moment and get one of those bets might be another option, right? Slow-moving books. Line goes from 1 to 2.5 right before kick. Try to find the one book that hasn't moved to 2.5 yet. That would be the other option. But that requires lightning quick thumbs and also a really good odds screen and a lot of apps and outs. And not everyone has that, right? Most people shop 2 or 3 books. So it's just that option is harder. That it's a more difficult strategy. You have to be much more locked in and have more access to sports books, offshores, PPHs, cheaper lines. But if you can execute that strategy, that's also a good strategy, right? But don't be the guy that wakes up on Sunday morning, sees that the Jags line steamed up 1.5 at Circa, and you're like, oh, shit, Jags are the right side. Let's bet -2.5. That ain't it. All right, let's move on to college football. The SEC, rough year for the SEC. It comes to an end in the Fiesta Bowl. Ole Miss loses what I would consider a valiant effort against Miami. I don't think Miami played their best game. I watched some of the film from their offense earlier today. I thought Carson Beck had his moments where he plays on time, on script. Very good at getting the ball out. He was willing to compete with his legs. I thought that was positive. The run game, heavy duo. They did a good job on the Ole Miss interior. Ole Miss has those 2 really good interior tackles, Harris and Eccles. I thought the offensive line for Miami, especially the right side, Mayaga and Cooper, did a really good job, double teaming the tackles and really creating space for Fletcher in the run game. They had 96 snaps in that game against Ole Miss. You're not going to run that many snaps against Indiana. You're going to have to figure out a way to maximize the snaps that you do get, because Miami can be one of those teams that kind of lulls you to sleep with their offense. It's just like they're going to slam you in the face 25, 30 times with Mark Fletcher, and then they're going to try to get Malachi Tony the ball on the edge, and he's a freaking devil on the outside. He'll break tackles and run right through your face. But this is a tough offense to defend when they can it's almost like they're like a snowball rolling down the hill, right? Fletcher's always going to get you 4 or 5 yards. So you're always going to be in 2nd and 5 and 3rd and 1. And that makes it tough to defend. We saw multiple occasions where Miami had 10, 12, 14 play drives where they're just grinding you down. I love Tony. We've talked about it on prior shows. I mean, might be my favorite player in the sport. He's just so gritty. Like, even on plays where he's not getting the ball, he'll just run right through your screws. Really good at getting under the defensive back skin. So, like, again, these are the things that Miami's gonna have to do exceptionally well if they're going to want to beat Indiana. I also thought Miami's tight end, 87, right? One of their tight ends got hurt, Lofton. He got knocked out of the game with like a rib injury. 87, Bauman, who was also, in the lineup for a most part, but he had an extended run. He was really good in blocking. But I really think this Miami offensive line, tight ends included, are going to have to be so good against Indiana. The Indiana game against Oregon was obviously very one-sided. I think Oregon is kind of fake tough. I think Indiana's real tough. Signetti has done an unbelievable job. We've talked about it on prior shows. No change, in my opinion, from Indiana. They're the best team in college football. We gave you plus 130 for them to win the national championship in our final segment last week. I hope some of you are enjoying that line value in your back pocket, as they are a touchdown plus favorite. I'm seeing some 8s pop up here in town against Miami in the national championship. We have plenty of time to dissect this game. Obviously, Ohio State and Miami, like, you go back and you look at that game, I think it was much like Miami's played such different games in this playoff, right? The A&M game was like a zoo. Wind everywhere. Neither offense could find any rhythm. It was just get out of Dodge with a win. The Ohio State game, I thought Carson Beck played okay in that game. I thought he showcased, some of the things that he can do against a really good defense. The difference in that game was obviously the turnovers and, the pick six and just the ability of Miami's defense to shut things down. Miami's defense didn't play its best game against Ole Miss. They made some mistakes, penalties. Ole Miss really spread them out, and I thought Trinidad Chambliss made some plays with his legs. Fernando Mendoza, not quite as elusive, but can make plays with his legs. So Miami played a grinder, another grinder where they were very fortunate they got a pick six, and then a game where their defense really got stretched in. So I think Indiana's got to be looking at this saying, listen, I think we're going to be able to have some success here on the offensive side of the ball because we're very balanced, and it's tough for Miami to take one thing away from us. And we're going to, slow these edge rushers down by running at them, and we're going to make Mendoza into a 2.5-second thrower, and we're going to slow this pass rush down maybe by running a little bit of tempo. And I think Indiana is going to be able to sustain some drives. The question is, can Carson Beck and Miami's offense be able to solve this Indiana defense, which completely shut down Ty Simpson in the Alabama offense, and frankly, they were really overmatched. I think Oregon has some dudes where they could match, but Oregon also dealing with injuries at running back. Dante Moore's a little bit skittish with the ball under pressure. I think Carson Beck's a little bit more solid with his reads, getting the ball out quicker. I don't know if Miami's going to keep it close yet. I haven't decided how I'm going to bet this game yet, but I think it's going to look a lot different than what we saw in the Oregon game. I do not think Indiana's going to go out there and go full belt to ass in the championship. I do think Carson Beck, who is the more experienced quarterback, slightly in this game. I think Mendoza might be the smarter quarterback, but man, I'll tell you what, Beck is earning some money in this playoff run. The fact that he's become a willing runner and is willing to compete with his legs has been really impressive, and I think he's going to have to do that. He's going to have to rip off a couple of runs in this game for Miami to have a chance, and Malachi Toney and Mark Fletcher are going to have to be dogs, and that offensive line's going to have to block their ass off, which they're very capable of doing. They're very capable of controlling this game in the trenches. Indiana's a little bit undersized defensively up front, but they're so damn disciplined, and they're so good at manipulating coverages and confusing, disguising. So I think this is going to be a fun game. I would not lay it with Indiana, right? We've got the futures ticket in our back pocket. We've got an Indiana money line ticket at plus money in our back pocket. There is no need to lay with Indiana. I think if anything, we take a little bit on Miami, take a nickel, maybe 10, 15, 20% of the Indiana bet that we made. For me, it was about a 2.5 unit wager on Indiana at plus money. Maybe I take a unit, and take 1 unit back on Miami plus money. At plus the points, and hope for a close game. Maybe I take a smaller wager on just Miami money line, right? I let all the Indiana exposure come in. Everyone's going to bet Indiana. And then at the last possible minute on Monday, I take half a unit or so, and I just bet a little Miami money line, and we protect our ass just in case Miami does pull off the upset. But I feel good about our Indiana wager. I think they're the best team. I think this is Curt Cignetti's year. This is his world. We are just living in it. It has been a remarkable coaching job by Curt Cignetti. This is one of the best coaching jobs in college football history. And I think his team deserves to win the national championship. I do not trust Mario Cristobal. I do not trust Mario Cristobal in a close game. You saw the mistakes that his team made at the end of that Ole Miss game. If Ole Miss waits a little bit longer to score and Miami doesn't have the amount of time left to go and score that touchdown, or if Ole Miss has like 10 more seconds, or if that penalty, that DPI, which, by the way, was absolutely defensive pass interference, if that play happens in the back corner of the end zone in any other quarter, it's called DPI, and you give the guy 15 yards, and it's 1st and 10 for Ole Miss at the 20-yard line, and it's one on-time down for the game. But it happened in the fourth quarter in the final seconds, and the refs just decided to swallow their whistle. But I've watched that play back 20 times, and he absolutely grabbed him and pulled him down, and the Ole Miss receiver still got his hand on the ball, so it was definitely catchable. And you can't tell me it was a Hail Mary because it was from the 35-yard line. The Hail Mary, to me, is like 50-yard line and out. Anything across midfield, especially from the 40 and in, I think that's not Hail Mary territory. That is, we're running a play, and we have a chance to score. And he obstructed him and pulled him to the ground and really armbarred him. So Miami was begging to give that game up. Begging. Absolutely begging. They were very fortunate to cover. Of course, I was on the wrong side of Ole Miss plus 3.5. But I do not trust Mario Cristobal in the big game to make the big play and to finish the game. I trust his team to ruin the game. So I do think Indiana wins, but I don't think there's a whole lot of value laying more than a touchdown. We see how crazy these games get. The SEC, though, right? Ole Miss loses. SEC finishes 2-8 straight up and ATS in bowl games, in games where they didn't play each other. Their only bowl wins, Ole Miss over Tulane in the College Football Playoff first round. Texas over Michigan in a random bowl game where Michigan was without their head coach who got fired for lots of misconduct. That's it. SEC goes 1-3 in the college football playoff against non-SEC teams. Listen, I'll give you the take right now. There is no more power conference in college football. There are power programs. Conferences are irrelevant. Here's what matters now in college football. Do you have money? That's it. If your alumni base has money, you have a chance to compete at the highest level. Indiana has one of the biggest alumni bases in the country. Mark Cuban, one of the richest men, businessmen, in the country, is an alum. They have an insane booster platform. Indiana's not going anywhere. Curt Cignetti just signed a whopper of a deal. They got Josh Hoover coming in next year. Stud, transfer quarterback from TCU. Indiana's got money to spend. They are not going anywhere. Any program that has money to spend has a chance to compete. And I'm not talking about millions. I'm talking about hundreds of millions. I think these NIL collectives and private capital that is now entering the sport, right? Utah just signed a deal with private equity. If you have money to spend, you are going to compete. It used to be the SEC had these little side deals with like small gas stations in rural Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama, and that's how they would pay the players. I heard a story once, old Georgia coach, players would go to this random gas station out in the sticks of Georgia. It would be a rigged slot machine. They put in this card that they were given, this chip card or something, slide card, and they hit the button and it would be an automatic win and the money would come out. And that's how they would pay players. That's a real story. That actually happened. That's how it went down in the SEC back in the day. That's why everybody wanted to go down there and play, because they knew they were going to get paid. Well, now everyone's getting paid. So the advantage of the SEC is gone. The playing field has been leveled. I think you are starting to see the effects of that based off of the postseason numbers. It has been a long time since the SEC has won a national championship. Go ask Paul Feinbaum, who said he would flee the country if the SEC didn't win a title this year. I heard Venezuela is beautiful this time of year, Paul. I don't know what else to tell you. Now, that's not to say the SEC can't flip this back because they have money too. But a lot of schools have money. The dominance that the SEC had, that inside track, has been eliminated. It is now a level playing field. Speaking of level playing fields, as we wrap up the show here with Rise and Wine, something I'm going to vent about, and it's going to be actually the NCAA doing something right. And I'm going to actually take the side of the NCAA and against the player in this particular instance. So we got news this week that Trinidad Chambliss was denied a 6th year of eligibility by the NCAA. The request was based off of a missed season in 2022, which was his redshirt season at Ferris State, where he was already the backup and already planned on redshirting because he was dealing with tonsillitis and had other related respiratory issues. And he made the claim that this should qualify as a medical redshirt. The NCAA said no. Good on the NCAA for that. Now, not to take away anything from Trinidad Chambliss' season, one of my favorite stories in college football, from D2 to the Final Four in the CFP. Awesome story. Probably should have won the Heisman if he started all 12 games. Shouldn't be given a 6th year of eligibility because he had tonsillitis during his redshirt year at Ferris State. The coolness about Trinidad's story is that it took him a long time to get noticed. Again, 2022 redshirt year as a backup at Ferris State. A D2 backup in 2022. Worked his way up the depth chart, started, won the national championship, transferred to Ole Miss. Took him 5 years, but he finally made it to the top of his mountain. That's the story. You don't get to cheat the system and get an extra year of NIL. And that's really why I'm glad the NCAA put their foot down here. The NIL situation, the transfer portal, the extra year that these kids got because of COVID, it turned college football into a wild, wild west. The money was just out there and people were just grabbing it. And that's why Chambliss wants to come back. There's a lot of money at Ole Miss waiting for him if he comes back. He's going to probably be one of the highest paid players in college football if he comes back. You saw what Sam Levitt's probably going to get $5 million. Sorsby got $5 million at Texas Tech. Like, I just think it's an insane amount of money that these guys can make. And you just can't let him play college football for 6 years. Trinidad Chambliss would be entering his age 24 season in college football if he was granted that 6 year of eligibility. It just goes against what the spirit of college football is. You get your 4 years of eligibility. You get your one redshirt year. If you don't figure it out in 5 years, you either move on to something else or you become a pro. I only think the 6th year should be granted to like extreme cases. You broke your leg. You overcame cancer. Like something like crazy. He was already redshirting that year and he had tonsillitis. I just don't think he should get a 6 year of eligibility for that type of appeal. So good job, NCAA. Trinidad Chambliss, I wish you the best, my friend. Go kick ass in the NFL. Go do something else. But you're about to be 24 years old. College football ain't for you anymore, bud. It's time to move on with your life. Get a job. Even though you could argue that playing college football these days is basically a full-time job. All right, Morning Glory. Texans Steelers tonight. Looks like Houston's still a 3-point road favorite. Low total, 38. Here's my actionable element for this game. I think it's going to be a heavy, heavy field goal game. You know Mike Tomlin loves kicking field goals. D'Amico Ryans, 2 defensive coaches, 2 good field goal kickers, Boswell and Fairbairn. I think both these guys are very capable. I know it's an outdoor game at Pittsburgh. let's check what the weather is. It looks like it'll be cold. Wind will be light. 10 to 15, actually more like 8 to 13. So weather should not be a factor in this game. Over 3.5 made field goals. You can get it right now, minus 130. I like that bet. Your actionable element, Morning Glory, for the final wildcard game, Monday Night Football. Our final Monday Night Football game of the year in the NFL. We'll get one more in college next Monday. Texans Steelers, over 3.5 made field goals, minus 130 odds. That is going to do it for this episode of The Morning After. Episode 17. Time flies when you're having fun. We are 17 episodes deep. Don't forget, sign up for the newsletter, subscribe, Patreon, YouTube, Discord, all the buttons, my friends. Please, I beg you. I'm so grateful for this audience, for this platform. I want to keep growing it. I want to make this your home. When something weird, crazy, kooky happens in sports, I really want to hear what Jared has to say about it because his takes are always unique. He always tells it to me straight. He has a sharp insight. He does his research. He doesn't just say shit to say it. There's usually a purpose behind it and an intent. And that is the purpose of this show and this Morning After platform. There's a newsletter. It comes out for free. If you can't listen to the podcast, the newsletter goes out shortly after I record the podcast. It is in basically a transcription of the podcast with all the key bullet points that you missed. The Discord is free. I chat during the games. I inform you of when I'm going live on various shows, various platforms. The Patreon is where you where I originate my content, my bets, live streams, and any other charts, graphs, gambling, information, things that I find useful. And, of course, my stream of consciousness with writing, with life, spirituality, nature, fitness, all the above. I love you all. Hit the like button on your way out, and I will see you next time on The Morning After.